How's it going, guys? My name is Dennis. I'm part of the group Space Race. I'm coming at you from New York City's very own Scratch DJ Academy. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about deg-gridding. All right, so deg-gridding, in the way that I'm talking about it, is literally moving your MIDI notes off of that grid that we love so much. A lot of producers, when you start out, you'll kind of tend to quantize everything pretty heavily. And what I mean by quantize is this function right up here in Logic, actually. This allows you to kind of snap any recordings that you do on your MIDI keyboard, for example, or even musical typing to the grid that is kind of programmed into Logic. So just as a quick review for people, you can actually quantize by just selecting whatever instrument you want to quantize, you want to kind of fit on that grid. And then you go up here to quantize, right up here at the top left of the inspector, and then you can kind of select you can select eighth note, quarter note, even triplets, 16th notes. You can select a lot of different kind of settings that will snap your MIDI based on the number that you choose. And so this song that I have here today that I want to talk about is a feature bass, kind of heaven trap, whatever you want to call it. It's a work in progress. It's not totally finished yet. There's still some issues with the mix down and such, but for the purposes of today's lesson, I think it'll do fine. All right, so I want to talk about kind of different ways in that you can go about actually deg-gridding in your songs. And so I actually used deg-gridding in several different places for different reasons, really. And you can use it to help your mix down. You could use it to give your instruments a little bit breathing room as far as attack and kind of punch goes. And you can also use it just to give your instruments a kind of jumpy groove to them, and you can kind of change the swing that way as well. So the first place I actually used deg-gridding in this song would be the lead. So I have this lead vocal chop that I actually imported into my ESX24, which is Logic's sampler. I'll just play it right here. So that's just like a vocal sample that I cut up and then rebounced into Logic into the sampler. And then so you can see that my MIDI right here, some of the notes are deg-gridded more heavily than others, and this is for different reasons. And so, for example, on the first beat of the drop, I have a kick drum going, right? So I actually wanted to move that first note of the lead sound a little bit back, so I would be able to give that first kick drum a little bit of more space to kind of breathe and really punch out on that first note of the drop. And that can really help as far as kind of clarity goes. And so I'll play both of them just to hear what I mean. So there's like a really nice click on that kick, and I really wanted that to stand out. So by deg-gridding the lead, you can actually kind of do that. You can kind of help it a little bit more. And in a way, deg-gridding can act sort of as a natural kind of means of sidechaining. If you're aware what that does. Sidechaining is a method, it's also called ducking, gain reduction. You can use it to kind of give your instruments a little bit more space as far as mixdown goes. Feel free to go check out the other Scratch DJ Academy videos on that as well. So when I deg-grid, I actually tend to do it manually in that I will go and actually move the notes one by one. Especially for doing this, for humanizing a song, I don't really want to go and humanize everything to the same degree. I want to do everything a little bit differently than one another, so the listener kind of doesn't get bored of what they're hearing. Because believe it or not, in live bands, even though a riff may be played maybe 4 times over, the kind of human imperfections that are played along with it actually give the listener a really good feeling, and it doesn't leave you bored. Whereas in electronic music, if you quantize everything really heavily, you'll be listening to the same loop over and over again, and frankly, people get annoyed with that. So I want to talk about the built-in quantization functions in Logic itself. So I spoke a little bit about the actual quantize function, but I kind of want to go over not only swing, but delay and quantize range, because that can be helpful to what this lesson is talking about. And so by selecting delay up here, you can actually move back your notes based on the number that you choose to click. So let's say I wanted to move my notes back a quarter note. I mean, I would never actually want to do that really, but just for the purposes of showing you guys, this is what I would do. So you can see it moved the lead note back a quarter note. So I don't actually want to do that, but if you wanted to, you could. And so you could go all the way up to a bar, forward and backwards. But for the purposes of deg-gridding, I would mostly stick with anything in the range of a 64th note to 1 over 192, because those are small numbers, and frankly, when you start deg-gridding in large spaces, it's going to kind of really throw off your groove. Okay, so I want to talk about deg-gridding as far as drums go, because you can really add a little bit of delay here and there to kind of give your drums a really thick feel. And so, for example, right here, you can notice that I actually manually deg-gridded these clap notes just a little bit, whereas I chose to keep this snare actually on the grid because it was nice and punchy, and I really like this sample. And then for this sample, you'll notice that there's a little bit of a roll on it, and that the attack isn't very hard. It kind of eases into it a little bit, it eases into its loudest point. So I actually decided to move this back a little bit. And it's kind of interesting because I don't usually do that because it can create some kind of funky sounds. But I chose to do this because it has a little bit of that roll, and it would give the snare during the drop a little bit, it would ease into the snare a little bit more as opposed to being kind of a hard punch. And I thought that was a cool effect. And so when you kind of layer all these things together, you can play a little bit more with the actual placement of the sounds, but when you start to kind of deg-grid your claps and snares from each other, they can they get a little bit more space in between them, and they can really feel a lot bigger. So I'll just play this again. And so here are all my drums together. So as far as deg-gridding goes, I kind of spoke a little bit about moving your lead sounds around to give room to your drums, and I also spoke a little bit about delay in claps, but you can use this in a lot of other scenarios as well. I don't want to undersell deg-gridding because it's actually very helpful. So what I did actually here during the last bar of the drop of this 4-bar right here, I actually did some kind of cool, like a cool deg-gridding trick that I actually all did manually, and this is the sound that came from it. And so you'll notice that actually none of these sounds, except for this last note right here, is actually even on the grid. And I really did that to kind of make it feel like there's a person almost like in your computer kind of plucking that violin. Okay, so just as a recap, today we spoke a little bit about quantizing, deg-gridding, humanizing certain elements of your music. And we spoke about different scenarios in where you could actually use deg-gridding. You could use it in claps, you could use it on kick drums, you could use it on your lead samples, you could use it on really anything. And kind of the choice is yours, really. And personally, it's really helped me push my production to the next level. It's really kind of helped me break the boundaries of that really hard quantized, gritty kind of music. It's really given my compositions a little bit of soul, kind of. And so, yeah, this has been Dennis from Space Race at New York City's Scratch Academy.